pencil sketch. I love the details on the facial parts of those.
Mm.
Yeah, those. Talk about that, please. I'm not a very big archaeologist or any kind
Mm.
of knowledge that I have, but please go ahead.
Well, I needed the architecture to reflect um, the sort of the aesthetic of the Mayans and the Aztecs, and sort of a mixture of that, of all those incredible cultures in South America. And so, but also we were dealing with sort of a fantasy make-believe place, Akator. So I borrowed heavily from and was inspired heavily from all of those ancient cultures to create these designs. And what you're looking at here is me really getting into the weeds, so to speak, in terms of the level of detail with the pencil sketches. And again, I remember doing this one and kicking myself and saying, my God, I'm spending way too long on these drawings. This one would have taken me probably a day to do. And again, a lot of it is because I enjoy it so much. Here you are, you're given this opportunity to design for Steven Spielberg. Oh my God, it's got to be the best thing you've ever done. And you know that George is going to be looking at this, and all these things are going through your head while you're designing. And so I remember really trying to stop myself from going into too much detail, and not make it about presentation and make it about the sort of the journey, if you like, of the characters in this script. And again, I used to be a professional illustrator. I would illustrate for a lot of uh, very renowned designers. And so finally, when I got to design, it was quite hard for me to put my tools down and move into the production design seat, where you still get to draw, you still get to create an overview of the world, but you can't dedicate days and days of your time to
Yeah,
sketching out every single prop. You just simply don't have enough time to do that unless you're prepared to sacrifice your weekends and your own free time, which of course I'm silly enough to do sometimes. If I get really excited about an idea, I'll say, well, I don't have enough time to do this during my day job, but I'll take this home and work late into the night to get it done, because I just enjoy that
of
process
course,
so
of
much.
course.
And so I suppose that's a long way of saying that's why this drawing is so detailed.
Yeah. Let me just go back here.
It's funny going back to what you were saying about the iconic nature of Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford and what he wears and how he wore it and all of that. There's a couple of fun stories I've got to share.
Please,
So
please.
we first did camera tests with Harrison over at Universal, and I'm pretty sure about this story. The costume was, as you may know, George Lucas is meticulous about his archiving. He keeps all the props and all the original artwork and everything. It's all stored very carefully, I believe, somewhere up in San Rafael, a property that George has, archives. And I remember a box coming out with the original costume for Indiana Jones. This is a true story. And Harrison fitted in this costume perfectly. And how
Wow.
many years have gone by? I mean, he
27
was in
almost.
such he was an absolute gentleman and a lovely person to work for and with. And I had some interaction with Harrison simply because of his background as a before he became a film star,
Carpenter.
an
Yeah.
actor. He was a carpenter, a master carpenter, and so he took a lot of interest, I think, in the set design and who the production designer was, and his environments as a professional. So I was very lucky to get to spend a little time with Harrison and show him around, for example, what would become his apartment, which was again on a soundstage at Universal. And he was in such great shape. Oh my goodness, for a man of his age, with respect, I mean, he could not have been in better shape. He looked incredible, and he slipped into his original Indiana Jones costume for these film tests. I mean, I'm sure they made him some new ones for this film because he was going to get through them, because he was going to do a lot of the work, the stunt work himself. But yeah, for the test, it was the original costume, and he slipped right into it. And I think it's worth sharing that, was
Yeah, that again, that is so thankful of you to share that. And I when I was watching Indiana Jones yesterday, so it's funny how your mind plays tricks on you, right? So
Mhm.
when Dial of Destiny I was watching last year, obviously in your head it's like, okay, this guy is like almost late 70s. I don't know his exact age, but I'm guessing he's late
Mm.
70s. And then I saw Kingdom of Crystal Skull. I'm like, oh my God, he looks so young. But then I realized how long ago that was. It's almost
Yes,
been
it was a long time ago.
20 years ago, right?
No.
Um, but I mean, but the amount of charisma he has. I just rewatched Fugitive, which was a big film in the early 90s. He's been able to carry that throughout his career, even up until Dial of the Destiny when that came out last year. And I know he's working on some other shows like 1923 with
Mm.
Helen Mirren. But yeah, no,
Mm.
that's a great story. Any other story you want to share? I'd rather hear those. Um, we can talk about this too, but yeah, you pick. You tell me what you want to do.
Well, you've moved on to another sketch here, which is kind of fun. This we're looking at the same sketch on the right, obviously, but on the left you can see how, again, in sketch form, I'm laying out some quick drawings to explain how those stairs would work, just in case it's unclear from the drawings. So you see
Yeah.
how they would slip into the side of the outer edge of this giant pit, this first sort of big booby trap that they go through. Um, and we'll see as we go through the photographs. I think I found a photograph of the set, and you could see the exterior was this sort of remarkable, complex, almost musical instrument where each of the steps was connected to a cable that ran around the outside of this spiral. And each of these cables formed their own exterior spiral, which all led down to a single mechanism that pulled all the wires. So it was this very strange, almost surrealistic giant musical instrument from the outside, this set. It was a really interesting one to work on.
That's amazing. This is the photo that you're
That
talking
is
about,
the
right?
photo. And you can
Yeah.
imagine, look at those people up there. This was a tricky set to shoot, but uh, hopefully worthwhile. A large section of it actually pulled out, so we could actually float a wall to make it easier to shoot. And of course, at the bottom of this, we actually had a pool of water with all those spikes, and it was a lot of fun dressing that set because we had put skeletons with sort of conquistador armor on them, as though there had been some Spaniards back in sort of the 16th century who'd maybe found their way in but didn't make it, which of course is part of the Indiana Jones tradition. I still remember in the first film when the spikes came out and there was sort of a skull stuck on one of the spikes.
Yeah, I
So
remember that.
that's what people want to see. That's what the inner 10-year-old boy wants to see. And that's something I think that Stephen understood so well. And all I was trying to do was live up to those expectations.